Okie dokie. All right. So one thing is to have, if you've got a smartphone or phone with a camera, to have that phone at the ready. There will be 3 occasions throughout the presentation where I'd just like you to, if you can, scan a QR code with your phone camera, and it will just ask you a question related to what we've been talking about. So I just want to get people's feedback as we go through here, just their thoughts on things. And then there will also be a bit of a Q&A through Slido at the end of the presentation. If there will also be a URL, so if you haven't got a phone, you can access it via your laptop as well. Okay, so a little bit around me. I noticed a lot of the companies I've worked for are red and orange. So working for VWFS UK is a nice colour change at least. I'm really excited to be here. I've been here for 10 months now as an Agile coach. I've got lots to learn and hopefully some good experience to share. As Simon kind of alluded to, my role is really looking at why we do what we do and how we do what we do. Obviously the what and the when is really important, but I'm trying to get us to focus also on the how we do things. So sort of the culture and the process efficiency side of things. That's me as a 4-year-old boy. My dad was had a private pilot's license. We used to spend a lot of time on the airfield. Never leave a 4-year-old boy in a Piper Warrior light aircraft alone. I did let the brake off the aircraft, and my dad did have a panicked jog across the airfield to clamber in and stop it. So that's the lesson from my dad that he learned: don't leave me alone in the aircraft. That's a little bit about me. So first thing to do is just to test the QR code. So if people can scan the code on screen or go to slido.com and use the code 89410. The question there is, what does agility mean to you? So we use the word agile quite a lot. The word agile, the word agility, the word business agile. Just interested in what words people would use to describe agility. Yeah, fantastic. So a lot in there around our ability to adapt, flexibility, the speed at which we move, quick change. Yeah. Forward thinking. That's good. Yeah. Cool. All right. Thank you very much for that. Good test that we can use Slido with the QR code. Thank you very much for the contributions there. Thank you. Okay, so pace and flexibility itself was introduced, I think, one of the recent all hands meetings that we've had, and really it's just an opportunity to talk through some of the reasons why pace and flexibility has come about, and really a lot of that's been through, as Simon mentioned, through our values and our guiding principles, and through our North Star, which I'll talk about those again later. We're kind of heading in this direction anyway. I think the COVID-19 pandemic has really focused us on, focused. Some of the things have been the regulator demanding that certain things are done in a certain time. So it certainly has focused us, but it's really speeded up some of our thinking around how we work flexibly, how we support customers, how we streamline process. And it's looking at the lessons that we've learned from COVID-19, from the crisis, and which of those things are sustainable, which of those things are in line with our guiding principles. And really it's for all of us. And that's kind of a lazy answer to me. It's not me here to do everything. It's not about me. It's about how we all can work together to make us more efficient, more effective at what we do, focus on the customer. Just out of the lessons learned, let's pick out a few things. Streamlining our processes, putting the customer at the heart of what we do, empowering people, and adapt to changing demands. I think pace and flexibility has, the bomb through defining some of the statements around pace and flexibility have given us the sort of the intent. It's tremendous intent on what we'd like our culture to be. It's now for all of us to work together to understand what that looks like day to day. What we do, how we feel, how we improve together. This isn't just something that we implement and we're done. As I said at the beginning, this is a journey that we're on, and the pace and flexibility terminology, the pace and flexibility initiative is really giving us that direction for some of the things we would like to see and the culture that we'd like for our business. So there'll be a bit of a theme as we go through here around experimenting and learning and improving together. We're looking to make change together. We want to be effective in doing that, productive. We want to keep our customers satisfied, meet their needs, collaborate with them. There's the wording in the hypothesis statement, which I'll come on to later on, around being empowered, making decisions at the lowest possible level, and working as cross-functional enterprise-wide teams. So there's a lot in here around teamwork, collaboration, and how we focus on customers. Now, as I say, a lot of these things are really easy to say and are harder to implement. And it is going to be a lot of how we experiment and learn together, how we try new ways of working, some of which will be successful for some teams and not for others. But it's going to be a lot around how we learn, how we share, and how we collaborate together. And I like to think about, if we did things differently, would that create more time for us? Could we do more valuable things, proactive things for ourselves, our teams, and our customers? I think often when we talk about changing our ways of working and efficiency, we struggle because we're busy. We're meeting our customers' needs day to day. People are busy in their teams, busier than they ever have been at the moment. So a lot of this is trying to be smarter around how we make time to make those improvements. And hopefully there's a few ideas in here on how we can do that. So a few things we'll discuss today. A lot in here around teamwork and culture, the values and the guiding principles that are leading us. I'll also describe what this is not. It's very easy for me to sit here and talk about being empowered and autonomous and being able to make decisions and accountable and responsible. But a lot of us have either been in this organisation for some time or been in other organisations, and cultures are different, principles are different. These things evolve over time, and sometimes it's good to just pay attention to what this isn't. Some of the behaviours that some of the things we do subconsciously, it's just habits that we have from the past, and sometimes it's good to remind ourselves what this isn't. I'll talk about context switching, how we can visualise our work and collaborate as teams, outputs and outcomes, and then a little bit around role modelling. So some of the culture hacks, some of the things we can do day to day. So I just wanted to start off with a bit of a video. This talks around teamwork.
The Wright brothers had each other.
One small step.
Neil Armstrong had ground control. Walt had the 9 old men. Steve had Woz. Humanity's greatest achievements remind us that individuals contribute, but teams make history. Somewhere along the way, we've lost sight of this. The modern-day career path is a narrow road built for one. This path divides and conquers the worker by separating us from our greatest asset, the team. It's time to change.
Did everyone hear sound? Was it just dots? Did sound come through? Perfect. Thank you. All right. So I think when we talk about teams and collaboration and culture, I think we'll probably admit, particularly when we're going through end-of-year appraisals and setting our objectives, sometimes it does feel like we're talking about us as individuals and not focusing on us as a team. And there will be some things in our policy and in our process that we have to acknowledge we aren't quite right for the culture that we're striving for. Some things we can change immediately, some things we can't. But all of this is around us talking about those things, talking about the things that we can change, and then being on that journey to try and make these things more efficient and more effective. The we, not me, people may have seen. I presume most people now have completed their mandatory learning, but they may have seen that as part of the Learning Zone training. Those that haven't done the training yet, it's probably a good time to do it. But yeah, a lot in there as well around Together for Integrity and teamwork. So, as I say, our values and principles, I think, having worked in a number of different organisations, I think we have a very, very strong set of values and guiding principles. And everything I'm talking about is us going through change. It's not just what we build for our customers, how we work with our customers. It's also us as individuals and teams, how we work together. And change is pretty scary at times. And I think we have to embrace our guiding principles. We have to have a focus on the customer, absolutely. But we have to trust each other. We have to have courage to make some of these changes and accept that some of them may not be successful. But we have to take responsibility for that. And what we're really looking for is that enthusiasm to make these changes. We want to make change. We want to get better, but we are acknowledging that if we are going to be forward thinking, we are going to have to perhaps try things, do things that haven't been done before, and acknowledge that they may or may not be successful. But again, that's part of the learning experience. From Stevam's perspective, Stevam again is out again this year, an opportunity for us to give feedback on areas where we can improve. 4 of the areas last year that had lower indexes, I feel certainly we can help to improve through things like pace and flexibility, through how we work together, how we work as these cross-functional teams, remove these silos in our business. And so, yes, there are things day to day that we can all do. It's important that we keep talking Steve-BAM is very much this kind of lagging annual indicator. There are lots of things with pulse surveys and things, and just collaboration and conversation that we can all do to make sure that we are making positive change. We're not just pushing change onto people. This is a collaborative effort. This is for us all to help define. But certainly, I think I would hope, if not this year, then next, we look back at some of these Steve-BAM statements and we've seen some good improvement. The intention of this is definitely correct, I believe. So I'd like to just consider what pace and flexibility isn't. So just a few things to pick out. If you look on the online PDR tool, if you look in some of the Live in Our Spirit competencies and documentation and the values documentation that we've got, it does a really good job of just reminding us consciously of some of the behaviours that we have that perhaps aren't in line now with our values and principles and the culture that we would like. And it's important, I think, just to remind ourselves all of the time of some of these statements that perhaps we don't do it intentionally, but when we do, some people quite rightly can speak up and say that's probably not in line with our principles and the culture that we want. So it's important with some of these things just to remind ourselves when we talk about decision making, we talk about empowerment, when we talk about effectiveness. There are lots of things that we have to just make sure that we're doing consciously. We don't want to be overruling people. We don't want to just put up with inefficient process, pass problems to other teams. We're not working to targets that we don't feel positively impact the customer. And again, in some teams, we probably are following targets that were defined months, if not years ago. So it's looking at what we're measuring, how we're behaving, how we work together, and just reminding ourselves really on some of these things. So that's what it's not. I think there's a number of initiatives that we have across the business. And again, I appreciate some people probably think it's a little bit of initiative overload sometimes, but they all very much have a part to play in leading us towards our North Star. So we very much have the customer experience transformation, as Simon mentioned, really focusing on the experiences that we provide for customers and how the way that we work sometimes negatively impacts that. The way that we measure things internally and externally sometimes impacts that. Work from anywhere, as we've seen, the flexible working really gets us thinking about how effective we can be, how productive we can be. We've got workforce planning as well, which will be an evolving thing, but really thinking about the skills that we need for the future. Something I'll talk about again later. Part of change is also the skills that we need in the business, how we use our talents, how we learn new things, and workforce planning will help us with that. And then pace and flexibility and Together for Integrity. So again, really looking at how we behave culturally, how we work together, and how we make our processes more efficient. So I think across all of the initiatives we've got with our strategic intent, with the North Star, I think hopefully we've got quite a lot of things now that give us real clarity on what we're aiming for and the way we'd like to work together. So another quick video on service design. Again, really important thing in here around teamwork and customer collaboration.
What is service design? I've been thinking about this for a while, and I recently discovered a brilliant quote by Mark Futai that I think sums it up perfectly. When you have two coffee shops right next to each other, each selling the exact same coffee for the exact same price, service design is the reason you go into one coffee shop and not the other. So let's play that out in a little scenario. Coffee shop A decide they want a mobile app. So they put a team full of people together to work on it for a couple of months before delivering it to their customers. The customers download the app only to find it's got nothing that they need. Now let's look at Coffee Shop B. Coffee Shop B put the customer at the heart of the experience. They talk to them. They do some immersive research and really get to know what the customer's doing before, during, and after their coffee. They can map this out on a customer journey where they identify the highs and lows of the experience and uncover some service opportunities and can start to explore solutions. The team then start to speak to other people from around the business. They speak to the colleagues in store and understand what their day looks like. They speak to the founder to look back at the original vision for the coffee shop, as well as the marketing team and the suppliers too. Once they have all of these people together, they can run a workshop or a series of workshops where they can identify the real business objective and exactly what they want to achieve. They can start to design some concepts and test them with the customers they now have a relationship with. They can do a tech analysis and plot everything on a blueprint that documents all of the support systems necessary to bring these concepts to life. With all this, they can create their North Star vision, all resulting in a mobile app full of features that customers love. But it doesn't stop there. They've also identified that colleagues need a tablet application to help them deal with the extra flow of traffic in store, and the payment system needs updating so all three can work in harmony. They might design a colleague training and engagement program and redesign the store to optimize the physical experience too, whilst also looking at how they talk about themselves socially, possibly even introducing some new product lines. These are what we call the front stage experiences. But in order for it to all come together, we must look at the backstage too. Here you will find the back-end systems that drive all the digital propositions, key metrics that we measure ourselves by, learn from, and iterate upon the services, as well as the CRM system and some delivery partners. So, service design is about three things. 1, customer-centric. It's about putting the customer at the heart of everything you do, and only then will you create services people love. 2, co-creation. It's about exploring and designing these concepts together, and as a result, you will ensure services are both technically feasible and business viable. 3, holistic. It's about building interdependent, interrelated experiences that all connect with people on an emotional level. That way, you'll create services that scale beyond the original idea. To round it all off, let's revisit Mark's quote. Service design is not just what makes you walk into one coffee shop and not the other. It's the reason you keep coming back and tell all your friends about it.
So yeah, that's not VWFS UK content. That's from YouTube. But I think that when I watch that, for me that really encapsulates really well some of the key things that I think we're striving for. I think that cross-functional nature of solving outcomes for customers, I think is so important. That kind of holistic view, understanding our strategic intent, and just how we all work together as a team to solve some of our customers' problems in line with our strategy and values and principles. So yeah, really service delivery, a really interesting topic. I think aligns with a lot of the things that we're talking about. So moving on to something slightly different. So again, understanding the importance of working as a team. Something else that we maybe don't do particularly well at times, so I'm guilty of this as well, and again, it's probably a subconscious thing, is really looking at, when we talk about pace and flexibility, it really isn't people being able to do multiple things at once, constantly switching from one thing to another. This, to give yourself that pace, that flow of how quickly we can deliver things, and flexibility. Really, to have that flexibility, you need that capacity. So we talk about adapting to changing customer needs, for example. We've got to realise that customers' needs have changed. We've got to be collaborating with them, and then we've got to have that time to adapt. If we're in back-to-back meetings for the next couple of weeks, we're not going to be able to make decisions. We're not going to have that capacity, that time to think. And I think in this example, whether it's simultaneous projects or whether it's simultaneous tasks or goals, you can see here that even when we're working on two things at once, you actually lose 20% of that time to that context switching. So it's just something to consider, is actually on any given day, how many things are we trying to achieve? How many goals have we set? How many tasks are we doing? And it really isn't about us being 100% busy all the time. Success is not us being busy. Success is us delivering value for customers. So actually, personally speaking, I'd rather people would be 70% busy, would have time to help each other, and time to do a little bit of that thinking, collaborating with customers and thinking about what's coming next, rather than being completely consumed in the day-to-day. A few stats around it. I think one of the shocking ones is that when you do get distracted, it can take 25 minutes on average to get back into the same place where you were with that task. And another one, study's been done that 15%, you lose 15 points of your IQ when you're heavily multitasking, when you're up at that 4 or 5 different tasks at a time. The kind of sweet spot it's suggested is those 2 tasks, those 2 goals at a time. Also, we'll come on to Pomodoro as a culture hack later on, but that 20-minute time to focus, I think it's getting into a place where we understand that something's important on a given day, and we give ourselves that time to focus on it and get it done. And we're not constantly. I'm as guilty as anybody. I've got a couple of screens. I can see something over here, and trying to not be distracted is fine. But I think sometimes to say to somebody, I'll come back to you in 20 minutes if that's okay. I'm focusing on this thing at the moment. Also, can you help me? Can I help you? To have the time to do that, I think is really important. Multitaskers weren't like this, but you can see a 40% drop in their productivity when you're constantly multitasking, and you make 50% more errors. So it's, again, some of these things, it's just worth considering. How much do we talk about how busy I am, and how much do we context switch and multitask? Related to that is resource efficiency and flow efficiency. And again, it's not that one of these is bad and one of these is good, but it's worth just thinking about what each of them is, how that impacts me and my team and the way that I work, and impacts our ability to focus on the customer. So I'm going to use Christian as an example, if that's okay. But poor old Christian's just had pain in his knee. I'm just using a bit of an example just to show how flow efficiency and resource efficiency differ. So apologies, Christian, I've made some of this data up. But just thinking about when Christian's going through the process of this, my knee's not right, I need to do something about it, all the different places he has to go to, all the different people he has to see, and all of the waiting that he has to do. 136 days potentially from that first contact to the surgical procedure. And actually in that time, Christian may only spend a number of hours, maybe 6 hours, actually gaining value from the process. And so in this example, when you talk about hospitals, often it's about keeping the doctors and the consultants busy. It's not about delivering value efficiently and effectively from a customer's perspective. Now, again, I'm not saying that one is right and one is wrong, but I think for your customer, for your process, for the value you're trying to derive, it is worth considering. How much do we value everybody being busy every day, and how much do we focus on whether we could deliver value for the customer quicker? And so flow efficiency and resource efficiency is an interesting thing to think about. Some of these things I'm talking about maybe going to take a little bit of time to digest. I'm hopefully providing a few ideas where you can have a little bit of think about, okay, yeah, maybe that sounds like our team, that sounds like me. I really want to talk to people after this. I really want to talk through some of these things. And there might be some areas where we can improve together. So another Slido.com, I'll just put up a different question. So let's go back one question. So if you go back to the same QR code, there should hopefully now be a different question. So just interested in how much context switching we think we currently do. And again, this is not lots of context switching, bad, terrible. It's us acknowledging some of the things that we do and finding ways to improve together. Good. Yeah, we've got loads or some context switching, so there's definitely some work for us to do. This is good. Well, it's not good, but there's progress to be made. All right, thank you very much. It's important to sometimes consider how much context switching we do and how we can reduce that. Talk with our teams around what we've prioritised for the day, what goals we're setting, what help we need. Another interesting tool is visual management, so visualising work. Some teams may have spotted lots of post-it notes around Brunswick Court and 1DD. Appreciate we're obviously working remotely at the moment. There are tools that some of the teams use that we don't necessarily all have access to, but even if it's Microsoft Word or PowerPoint, there are tools that we can all use, the conversations that we can all have, just to think about when we do a piece of work, what activities do we carry out? What stages do we go through? Who is the task for? What value is it generating? I've been in a position before where I've done something and I've not actually known who it's for. I've distributed a report to an email distribution list. I don't know if anybody reads it. I don't know who it's for. And it's for us all to think about our own time is valuable. We want to focus on delivering value for our customer. So what tasks do we do? How do we prioritize them? What stages do they go through? And part of that visualization is us all seeing what's going on, understanding what's important, helping each other. And you'll start to see bottlenecks, actually, when you start to visualize things. Certain things will get stuck in certain places. And it's how we all help each other to say, well, that's a bottleneck. I can help with that. I can help you today. And again, if we build into our time a little bit of flexibility to help each other, and if we can visualize the work, then hopefully we see things flow through our team more quickly and we'll deliver value faster for our customers. So again, visual management, visualizing work, a good discussion to have with your teams. Again, I and others can help with that if people would like to try that. The importance there is really around, it's called empiricism or the empirical process, but it's inspection and adaptation. So by visualizing what we're doing, we're making it transparent. Visualizations can be quite powerful. And we then start to look at what we do, check the work as we're doing it. We're talking about it. Again, teams are starting to try talking every morning as a team about what they're doing that day and the help that they need. And really the importance there is being able to help, being able to improve, being able to adapt to the things that we do and how we do them. Just because we follow a process today doesn't mean that that's the most effective process. Things change. And so if we can visualize the steps that we follow, if we can see where things slow down, then we can discuss as a team where we can improve. Outcomes and outputs. So you may have heard the word outcome used more and more this year, and at the end of last year. And I think in some of the IT work that's been carried out, the word outcome's been used for a little bit more time than that. And I just want to just give an example of the difference between outcomes and outputs. So considering Van Gogh's painting of cows in the meadow, if we give a requirement to another team, if we ask that team to draw a certain number of flowers in a certain colour, a certain number of sheep, a certain number of cows, the sun in a certain place, then we're giving solutions and we're giving requirements to other teams. Now, if we, and this is often the output that we get, and the team will be happy because they've been asked to do something and they've delivered that output. Not always knowing exactly who was the customer, exactly why am I doing that particular thing. It's a task that needed doing, I've done that task. And that's okay, but potentially better is talking at the beginning as a cross-functional group about the outcome that we're striving for. Now, if we actually wanted to create a wonderful picture that we could either sell or we could put up in a hospital to benefit a certain type of person, then the previous versions were not aesthetically pleasing. When we're working together and we're collaborating and deciding what we're going to draw together and where we're going to draw it, then we get a better output. So we're starting to talk more about the outcome. What does success look like? And I'll come on a little bit more to some specifics in a moment. So again, just another quick slide, if that's okay. This time I think about how much of the work that we do is output focused. Asked to do something very specific, doing something very specific, without necessarily always knowing the actual customer outcome that we're trying to meet. Okay, but it's not all. So that's good. We've made some steps, but yeah, most or some of the work that we do is output focused. So yeah, I said again, just I talked a lot about at the beginning around understanding why we do something and then improving how we do it. But I think that importance of us being okay to ask, have the courage to ask why, no matter who's asking you, somebody senior, the brands, whoever we're working with. We don't want to delay things, but I think if we can understand the outcome we're striving for, sometimes as a cross-functional group, we will most of the time come up with a better solution. So talking about outcomes, and at the beginning I mentioned experimentation. So this, again, the word bet's been used sometimes as well, kind of accepting that we can't ask a group of people to do 5 things and expect that we're going to get a particular result, whether that be market share or financial, whatever the measure of success is. We're in this world now where in some areas in particular, we are going to have to try something and we are going to have to see, we're going to have to observe what happens. And then it's that importance of understanding what we expect to see and then observing. So I spoke a minute ago about inspect and adapt, observing and adapting. So the word iteration is often used. So it's not just I need to do something by this date and it's finished. It's I would like to do something for this reason. I want to try something, and then we'll learn, and then we'll probably evolve it slightly or stop if it's really not the right thing. So it's kind of being open to the fact that exactly what we're doing is not certain. Sometimes it's more having a negative hypothesis. You're almost trying to prove that what you're doing is the right thing, as opposed to believing that it's right and almost at all costs. And these hypothesis statements can sometimes help us with that. So often we put the phrase due to above it. So due to some sort of insight, some sort of data from customers. What is it that we believe? So if we do something, what will the result be? And how will we know, how we have confidence to proceed? So what is it that we're measuring? And I won't go into leading and lagging indicators today, but the importance of measurement is to understand, if we think we can launch something into the market, then what is it that we could test really quickly? What is it we could learn really quickly? Could we go into to an office? Could we go into a showroom? Obviously at the moment it's socially distanced, but what is it that we could do the quickest to learn something to give us an increased confidence that we're doing the right thing, we're going in the right direction? And so it's trying to be a bit experimental. It's like being back at school again. It's you're doing that experiment. You've got a number of variables, and we're going to observe, we're going to measure, we're going to learn, and we're going to iterate. So it's very experimental now, some of the language that we're using, but this is very intentional because we don't have that certainty. It's thinking about the problems that we're trying to solve. And it's also thinking about the assumptions we're making. I think a lot of the time we make a lot of assumptions in the work that we do. And it's just acknowledging that I've got an assumption, and that actually becomes a test. Have a hypothesis. Your hypothesis is probably that assumption is correct. So go and test it. Go and test that assumption. Work as a team, collaborate with customers, and test that assumption. Some of this is already in action. This is a screenshot from a tool that we use in some of the teams called Jira, just to show that we are going through that thought process. And on the right-hand side, importantly, we talked about strategic intent and strategic alignment at the beginning. With the strategic themes that we have, and as we go into more detail around the organizational outcomes, we are wanting to link everything that we do day to day to what we're trying to achieve strategically and what we're trying to measure strategically as success for our customers, for our business, shareholders, stakeholders, and the regulator. So it's just trying to show, when I talked about why and purpose at the beginning, we are making strides towards that, definitely. Both the way that we collaborate across the business and the way that we are trying to tie things together, often referred to as the golden thread, but from what I'm doing day to day in my team, all the way back up to what we're trying to achieve strategically for the next 3, 4, 5 years. And again, we are using that language, forming things as an experiment and testing things as we go. Pace and flexibility itself, it does have a hypothesis. Now, it has a we believe that. Some of the language we have used in the presentation so far. We want to put the customer at the heart. We want to reduce unnecessary bureaucracy. COVID-19 has shown us that we can do that. So in some places that's sustainable, in some places it isn't, but that's what we need to understand. We believe that will result in us delivering customer and business outcomes. We're going to do those things at a greater pace, and we're going to be better able to adapt to changing demands. Now, we'll know this is true when and how we'll measure it. There are obviously some ideas within the work stream, within the group, but this is really where we need everyone's help. A lot of this in here, you'll see at the bottom, process efficiency is the more tangible bit, but the culture and the mindset, a lot of this is going to be around how we feel, what we do differently, how we behave, how we work together. And so I really encourage people to get in touch. I want to broaden that group. I want to have sessions on it. What does this hypothesis statement mean to you? What does the future look like in line with our values and principles? How do we behave differently? How do we work differently together and with our customers? So we really need help with that. Just specifically then, so culture hacks has been mentioned in Headlight. There's some great work to show some example culture hacks in Headlight. These are some of the little things we can do every day. Some of the things I've talked about so far are things that you can reflect on as a team, things that you can try as a team. Some of the culture hacks are things we can just do immediately. So again, some of them will be successful. We have to define as a hypothesis statement what we think success might mean. Some of them are a little bit silly. Some of them are very serious. Some of them, again, as I say, will work in some teams and not others. But the importance here is to try some, to share them. When we talk about experimenting, we talk about learning and working together, trying to break down the silos. This is going to be for all of us just to share things, just to have that enthusiasm, that courage to try things. Now, the way that we start meetings, when we start them, commit to arranging a video call if there's more than 3 emails, rather than just using email as our standard way of communicating. Leave a meeting if you're not adding value. Only read emails at set times. Make time each week to learn something new and share it. Substitute someone else for a meeting that you go to. Reduce how many times you can escalate things. Walking meeting. Daily stand-ups, so sharing with your team what you're doing today, why you're doing it, the help you need. We mentioned Pomodoro, these focused time boxes to get things achieved. Cut longer meetings by 15 minutes. Retrospectives. So retrospectives are an interesting one. Often that's where a team will talk about exactly this sort of thing, how they're feeling, where we think we can improve, where we see inefficiency. But actually, how often do we as a team sit down and talk about those things specifically, rather than just getting on with the day-to-day work? Can we make some time every month to just sit down as a team and talk about some of these things? Fudge Up Nights is another great example. So some of the Fudge Up Nights in IT, sharing failure, being open to that, encouraging the courage to share where I tried something that didn't quite work. I think that's the culture we're after. So we've just got to get used to trying some of these things and sharing them. And can we implement some of these? Can we get that time back by implementing some of these? Cut a few of the meetings, don't attend some of the meetings, substitute some people, don't read emails, don't get distracted. Hopefully some of these things will save us an hour in the day, and then we can really do some thinking around how we improve our processes for the future. And as I say, importantly with some of these, please share them with Joe, Lizzie, Georgia and Nikki. Get these things at the Headlight. Let's share them with the wider business. So just coming to the end now. So just a final video to share. It's around being a Mr. Jensen. So a lot of what I've talked about is change, and change is hard. Change can be quite scary. We have acknowledged, I think, COVID-19 aside as well, that the industry is changing, customer needs are changing, and we're going to have to change what we do, how we do it. The skills that are needed will evolve. Then that does require courage to try something new, to help each other, to show trust, to start to take responsibility. We're going to be doing things differently now, and next year and the year after. So it's really how we all work together, support each other, and get the best out of each other.
I have a lot of memories from when I was a child. One that's always stuck out to me, though, was when I was about 10 years old, and I was in school, and I struggled. And I didn't struggle with English, math, or science. I struggled holding still. And I would try to listen and focus and process ideas, but I couldn't help myself. And to be honest, I would sit there and then I would just start tapping. And the students in the class would look at me and they'd say, "Hey, stop tapping." A lot of the time, I didn't even realize I was doing it. And then eventually even the teachers got after me and they would yell at me and they'd say, "Clint, you have to stop tapping." It got so bad that I got sent to the principal's office for tapping. And he said to me, "Okay, maybe when you go back to class, just try sitting on your hands." So I did. I went back to class, and when I felt myself starting to tap, I did this. I sat on my hands. And that worked for about 5 seconds. One time I was tapping in class, and my teacher, Mr. Jensen, looked at me, and he yelled. And he said, "Clint, stay after class." And I thought to myself, this is it. I am done. Now, I've always been the type of person that believes that a single moment in time can change a person's life. And this was one of those moments for me, and I will never forget it. And so I was sitting there with Mr. Jensen and an empty classroom. He walked past me and he sat next to his desk and he said, "Clint, come here. I want to talk to you." And as he looked me right in the eye, he said, "Now, I need you to know something. You're not in trouble. But I do have just one question that I have to ask you." And he said, "Have you ever thought about playing the drums?" And in that moment, Mr. Jensen, he leaned back and he opened the top drawer of his desk. And he reached in and he pulled out my very first pair of drumsticks. And he held them in his hands and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, Clint, you're not a problem. I think you're a drummer." From that moment on, I've never put those sticks down. I've toured, recorded, and played drums all over the world. My whole college education was paid for with drumsticks in my hand. Just because of a single moment in time when somebody believed in me. And he saw something in me that I didn't even see within myself. And from that moment, I learned that there's a difference between being the best in the world and being the best for the world.
So that's Clint. Yeah, I think for me, when we talk about courage and enthusiasm, that incorporates the customer and ourselves. We're going through lots of change, and there's an element here around how we support each other, having the enthusiasm for change and supporting each other. And there's, as I say, it's a scary time. There's new things to learn. We're now talking about uncertainty and experimentation, and we need to support each other through that to get the best out of each other. So, yeah, Mr. Jensen is the message there. Just an example as well is Richard Branson. I mean, we're talking here around not always being successful, trying new things and learning. Very, very successful guy with more failures than successes. I did chuckle when he put on a wedding dress. He had a dress business years ago, and even him wearing a wedding dress wasn't enough to inspire customers. But again, it's okay. We're going to try some things; they're not going to work, and it is about sharing what we've learned from those situations rather than dwelling on the fact it wasn't a success. Taken from a Gillette advert, yes, but again, a good quote from Raheem Sterling, again in line with our guiding principles. This is about coming to work, being yourself, showing your best side, and not just doing what we do, not just playing the game, but changing it. I think we've got a lot to achieve. We've got some fantastic guiding principles and values, and I think we've got some great support from our BOM. So, yeah, I'm really excited. I think there's some good change we can all make together. I'm here to help and support. Just one final QR code, and this is maybe not for right now. If people want to scan this just for later on, just wanted people to think about some of the things that they can commit to. So I've talked through quite a lot of things about yourself and your teams, the way that we do things, the way we work together cross-functionally. And what is it you think you can try? What is it that you can share, what you've learned with others? And there's an element for all of this, whether it's the culture hacks, whether it's changing the way the team works with other teams, collaborates with customers. This is about trying something and sharing it. And some things, as I say, will be better, some things won't, but it's the importance of sharing. The ideas boards on your phone, it's not the easiest thing to use. So just a bit of a pointer there, top right, and then create new idea. I'd love it if people want to commit to some things on the ideas board. That would be great. Just to mention, just finishing off now, there's pace and flexibility drop-ins, so I will set up some calls. So starting on the 1st of October, I mentioned at the beginning and at the end, when we talk about pace and flexibility, this is not just something that we do for a few weeks, a few months, and it's finished. This is culture. This is hard stuff, but it's all of us working together, trying things. And for the pace and flexibility work stream, for the hypothesis we have, it's the importance of understanding the words, the language. When we say be empowered to make a decision, be accountable and responsible, focus on the customer, maybe you feel that those things aren't possible right now. Maybe there are things that are stopping us, policies, procedures, behaviour, and we need to talk about those things. So, yeah, I'm here on MS Teams, all my phone numbers there, to talk some of these things through, to work them through, to really get momentum with pace and flexibility. And the virtual coffee, so that's another opportunity to continue the conversation on pace and flexibility and the work from anywhere work streams. So, thank you very much for your time. Hopefully some things in there have got you thinking slightly differently, and more than happy to keep the conversation going.